Well, when I was a little boy sitting on my mama's.
Hello, welcome to Going Deeper. My name is Marcie Sclove, and we are now in part 2 of my interview with Tim Bullock. Tim, I left part 1 with a question about this act, this way of practicing, of walking and beating a drum and repeating this chant, Mami Myoho Renge Kyo. And this is something that is the practice of the Peace Pagoda. And it has had profound responses, reactions, transformations. And I wanted to just ask you, that was such a big part of the pilgrimage and of the work you do with the Peace Pagoda. How does that work? What's happening there?
Well, I'm not sure I'm the one, that can tell you how that
Well, just from your
that
experience.
magic works. But
Yeah.
For me, I see the Peace Pagoda as a place where I can get in touch with the spiritual side of myself. Mm-hmm. In many ways, I feel that my strength comes from that spiritual side. And the Peace Pagoda gives me a chance to practice, each day, a chance to practice my spiritualness. Mm-hmm. And it's through that spiritual practice that I get the strength to be able to do other mm-hmm. things. Since that walk back in 1998, I've dedicated my time to working, with the Peace Pagoda, mm-hmm. to organizing walks and other events, to caring for and maintaining the Peace Pagoda community. Mm-hmm. And I feel it's, because of that practice that I'm able to do that. It takes a certain amount of work to survive in this world, and this work at the Peace Pagoda has, enabled me to have a life that I feel very comfortable with, mm-hmm. and that is very fulfilling for me. And so we do a walk every year, 2 walks actually. The Walk for a New Spring is our big walk, and one is coming up now. This walk usually is just in Massachusetts, but for the past 4 out of the last 5 years, we've been going to Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. This walk began as a result or in response to what happened in New York on 9/11, mm-hmm. 2001. When we felt the frozenness in our community as people were, trying to understand, why would someone attack us like that, running planes into buildings, and how do we cope with that? How do we reconcile it? The monks at the New England Peace Pagoda thought this was an opportunity to bring the walk to communities so that we can have these gatherings, these discussions. And so since 9/11, we've been walking, to unfreeze the hearts and the minds mm-hmm. of people. We walk from midwinter to spring, wow. Through the cold, and as I say, coming to Washington, D.C. In the spring, we see the cherry blossoms, and so it's it's like growing peace, in other words, wow. in many ways, and so.
And it's primarily, your focus is on nuclear power issues, right?
Nuclear weapons and war, and nuclear power, yes. We see nuclear power and nuclear weapons as being, very intricately intertwined. And so, yeah, that's been a big part of our focus. But it's also how do you support, the human part of, our existence, giving people, eradicating poverty and a lot of things to do with, people issues as well.
Yeah. It's interesting, when we talked before, you were saying that that the pilgrimage was really a turning point and that you kind of see your life before and after. And you said something about fear being a big part of the before and empowerment being a big part of the after. And now I'm kind of making the connection too about the empowerment being also reinforced every day with this practice, this Buddhist practice. And it's not that's not where you weren't born into this, but it suits you. It serves you. And then it touches one person and you organize some things, and then people interact with people along the walks. So more and more people are really affected, benefited. I guess that's kind of how it's working.
Yeah. One of my mentors, Dr. Vincent Harding, he passed away last year, but one of the things that he constantly talked about, and something he said he got from Dr. Martin Luther King, was that, whatever you're doing, whatever your work is, part of it has to be organizing goodness. Wow. And I see this work of walking from community to community is connecting communities and organizing goodness within those communities. Great. And so, yeah, it's...
Dr. Harding became a good friend of the Peace Pagoda in his later life, didn't he?
Yes.
How did that happen? How did you all meet each other?
Dr. Harding was referred to us by the SCLC when Ingrid and Sister Claire was organizing for the Middle Passage pilgrimage.
Southern
Christian Leadership Conference, yes. Dr. Harding was recommended as someone who knew a lot about Africa. And so he helped us quite a bit, wow. In the organizing of the Africa portion of the trip.
Okay. There was a beautiful memorial for him up at the pagoda. That was just so moving. And I want to talk a little bit about the Peace Pagoda. A lot of people don't even know about it. And we see it in my family as one of the few treasures, of our valley. What can you tell us about the history and what goes on there?
The Peace Pagoda is maintained by a Japanese Buddhist order, Nipponzan Myohoji. Nipponzan Myohoji came into existence through their founder, Nichidatsu Fuji, who studied with Gandhi in India and who gave him the name Fuji Guruji. And so most people call him Fuji.
Fuji Guruji.
Guruji Sama. The most venerable Fuji Guruji, yes. And he turned 60 years old on the day that they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. And so he dedicated his life, to somehow trying to ban and abolish nuclear weapons. That was the work that he thought that his disciples in Nipponzan Myohoji should be doing, and working with the native people in the U.S. And so monks came from Japan and from India to the U.S. to to do walks here, and some stayed, you know, and Hatashonin, you know, wanted to be in the New England area. He thought it was going to be Boston, but you know, he came west, and he thought it was going to be in Amherst, but it wound up in Leverett. And the pagoda was completed in 1985, and temple was built soon after. But the temple we have now is the second one. The first one was destroyed by fire. And it's just a place. It's a beautiful place. It has a Japanese pond and just places where people can come and relax, meditate if they want, just be there. And we have a lot of people who come for prayers for morning. We have morning and evening prayers, and people do show up, especially during the summer and spring when the weather's a lot nicer.
The new temple is exquisite.
Yes.
So gorgeous.
And yeah, it's just a place where it doesn't matter what religion you are, but it's just a peaceful
That's
place.
what always impressed me too, was that it's very much grounded in its Japanese Buddhist order, but at the same time extremely interfaith.
Extremely interfaith, yeah. People come up for weddings, and you know, it's just.
And at all the events, so there's the annual October anniversary event.
Yeah, early October, we celebrate the anniversary of the pagoda. We're in our 30th year this year.
Wow.
And in the springtime, we celebrate the birth of the Buddha with our flower festival, usually in late April or early May.
Wonderful. And every day, people can just park down below and walk up and just have a picnic or somehow do some gardening or volunteer in some way. All of the whole thing, the stupa, the stupa and the temple and the grounds, everything was built with volunteer labor.
Volunteer labor and donations.
And donations, everything.
Yes.
And sometimes there's a lot of patience that's required because volunteer labor takes time.
It does. The new temple, they were just beginning to build it when I arrived in 1998.
Wow.
And we just had the inauguration of the temple, I think in 2010.
Yeah.
So, yeah, patience
really
is
great.
a virtue.
Yeah. It's also really interesting how you've been able to create your life sort of out of some sort of a box of what should be. And that it's so useful. You know, you're really taking quite a role there.
Well, thank you. It's been, you know, very fulfilling for me to be a part of this community and to have the responsibility, to be given the responsibility of organizing walks. You know, it's taken me places that I, you know, don't think it would have, or, you know, I would have gone. I've been, you know, a lot of the actions that we do are legislative, and so I get to meet, you know, our senators, our congressmen, you know, in a personal way.
Wow.
I get to, you know, try to influence legislation because that's part of what we do as we're walking. We're getting people to support legislation that, you know, will benefit the people in our country, and so I'm in a position that I know it would not be had I not taken that first step with that walk. Yeah.
That's really great. Well, I want to thank you for meeting with me today and talking about the Peace Pagoda and this really remarkable pilgrimage that you all took. I know that the impacts of it keep rippling out. It's not over yet, and they're good. They're good impacts.
Thank you.
So I want to thank Amherst Media for hosting this show, and Thank you all for joining us.